Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do part 2 of a Q&A with an agent. Of course, if you all have any questions that I have not covered in any of these videos, please comment below or contact me on any of my social media, and I will be happy to answer your questions. Right now I'm just compiling a list of frequently asked questions from authors, from different panels or workshops, or just direct questions that I've received. So I really hope that you guys find this useful. So the first question I have is, let's see, what is your day-to-day like working with an author? Okay, so my day-to-day honestly varies, which is one of the things that I really love about publishing in general, but specifically about being an agent. You never know what the day is going to bring. So on average, I probably start work around 7 a.m. And normally in the beginning of my day, I am checking emails, and then I'm also checking post-its. I work with post-its. That's like my follow-up system. And so I have one list that has all of my clients on it, and then I have various daily tasks that I, keep track of via post-its. And so weekly, I'm checking my client list to kind of see what my clients are doing, where they are, what do I have upcoming. So for my clients that already have deals, I try to check in with them maybe like every 6 weeks, every couple of months, just a hey, how's it going, what's going on, etc. If they have any events that they're doing, if they have upcoming books, I definitely will promote them on my social media, on Art House Literary social media as well. Just to try, of course, again, all news, any resource that you could find to spread the word. As we know, word of mouth sells books. So I try to get the word out when my clients have things coming up. Excuse me. But for the most part, it's lots of meetings actually with editors and other publishers. And in terms of from my author, we could be working on anything from a proposal that we're getting ready to shop, manuscript revisions that we're getting ready to shop. If I've just sold something, I'm working on contracts, either going back and forth with my client, their lawyer teams, or even just my own contracts manager, or negotiating back and forth with the publisher. Also, once deals are made, I'm making announcements. I'm having call check-ins with my clients and or their editors, especially if there's some kind of issue going on. A lot of times I have to play middleman or middlewoman, where I have to kind of figure out what's going on both sides. So that's scheduling calls with the publisher, and then scheduling calls with my author, and then trying to figure out how I navigate whatever the issue that might arise. So for the most part, it's lots of editing, lots of emails. I'm always editing something, and a lot of day-to-day management and making sure I'm following up on submissions, following up on any issues, following up on emails that my authors may have sent out to their editors or publishers that they're waiting on. So a lot of follow-up, a lot of check-ins. I try to limit my meetings per week just so that I actually have time to work on edits and submissions. I didn't even say anything about that. My day-to-day is mostly filled with working with my clients and establishing new contacts for potential clients. And then, every few weeks I try to go into my submissions and see what's there and hopefully find new clients. But I think the most important thing is making sure I'm managing my current clients before taking anyone else on. Next question. Can authors sell standalones, or do publishers prefer series or signing a multi-book contract? So I think for that, it really just depends on the author. For genre fiction like romance, like mystery, suspense, historical, a lot of readers do prefer series. And if you are submitting your work to a publisher like a Harlequin or like an imprint that, kind of does a lot of series romance or series fiction in terms of like mystery, horror, those kind of subgenres, then yes, they do prefer series. And oftentimes they will ask you if what you have submitted is a series. However, you don't have to only write series. If you write longer standalone books, then you want to just make sure to target those standalone publishers that take on both, or one or the other, whichever one suits your needs. You want to make sure you're researching the right publishers, which is why a lot of times agents come into play, because the idea is that they know the best places to pitch your work. In terms of whether or not it'll be a multi-book contract, again, it just depends on what you write. In most cases for fiction, they will sign at least 2 to 3 books, depending on if they're signing you for hardcover, trade paperback original, or mass or e-original. Then typically, yes, they will acquire multiple books, at least 2 to 3. If you are a nonfiction author, depending on your idea and or platform, those tend to be maybe 1 book at a time, sometimes 2. Again, it really depends on what you're talking about, the sales potential of that project, and if you guys have already kind of mapped out multiple books, or if whatever you're talking about will withstand multiple books. Otherwise, with nonfiction, typically it's 1 book at a time, 2 books at a time, depending again on what you're writing. And for fiction, it's usually 2 to 3 books at a time. Okay. Should you hire an editor before pitching your book? I absolutely wholeheartedly recommend working with an editor, hands down. If you have the budget to do so, you absolutely should do so. And here's why. A lot of times, again, someone like me also, I have about 25 clients that I'm managing on a day-to-day basis. Editors are the same. Sometimes they have more. So the quality of your work really does help us to decide if we want to take you on or not at any stage, whether you're looking for an agent, a publisher, or if you're self-publishing. So I think, finding the budget and spending the money on a reputable editor to help you get your book as strong as possible will only benefit you. Whether you decide to find an agent or publisher, or if you decide to self-publish, you can always use that edited book. So I recommend wholeheartedly that you guys work with editors, because as you know, we get a lot of submissions week to week. And so if your book is as strong as possible, I promise you, your agent and in-house editor will thank you. I've seen it happen. It is very useful. So if you have the budget to do so, please do. If you don't, then please find a writing group that you might be able to work with, who have beta readers or critique partners that can give you real feedback that can help you to make your book as strong as possible. Not just the grammatical errors, but also the story itself. Okay, so you want to make sure when you're going out in the world, whether it's to find an agent or publisher or to self-publish, you have the strongest possible piece of work. Okay, how long does it take for an agent to get back to you? I'll be honest, guys, 8 to 10 weeks I think is a really nice amount of time to give to a publisher or an agent that is reviewing your work. Again, we're usually working with a lot of authors, or at least a nice number of clients, and our clients come first. Okay, and so you want to make sure that you give the agent enough time to review your work. Anyone who has ever heard me speak knows that I always say a slow yes is better than a fast no. And if you get too impatient and you start stalking them, you're sending multiple messages, you're trolling them on social media, that is not the way to get your book reviewed faster. Sometimes it just takes people longer. And sadly, sometimes people just will not respond if they don't like it. Like, that is your response, the no response. So give it 8 to 10 weeks. Do 1 follow-up. If you don't hear back after another 8 to 10 weeks, I would mark them off and move on, okay? Because again, you don't want to troll someone and kind of show people that you're not that easy to work with if you don't get your way, and rushing someone to review it. They might take a quick peek and be like, nah, I'm good, versus having the time to really sit down and review your work with an open mind, and doing it when they're not kind of rushing or cramming because they feel pressured to get back to you. So, depending on an editor or agent's workload, they can get back to you as soon as a few weeks or as long as some months. I'll be honest, I try to get back to people within 8 to 10 weeks, but sometimes I run a little long, and also it takes me 8 to 10 weeks to read your query. So now if you send me your manuscript, I might take a little bit longer to read the manuscript, because now I have to work in reading that full manuscript in between my daily work. So just try to be patient. I know it's hard. Trust me, I get it. But please try to be patient and allow the editors and agents the right amount of time to get back to you. 8 to 10 weeks before that first follow-up. And I would say only 1 to 2 follow-ups before you move on to the next person. The next question actually coincides with that previous response, which is, if an editor and agent doesn't respond to your query, does that mean it's a pass? Most times, yes, although sometimes they really are just really backed up, and you might get a response like months later, So I would definitely say after 2 follow-ups over the course of, a few months, 3 to 4 months, definitely move on to the next. And the last and final question for this section is it appropriate to pitch an editor or agent via social media? Unless you are participating in some kind of Twitter pitch mad or something where they're actually requesting for you to do that, please stop DMing editors and agents with links to your book. Please stop DMing them with all this material they have not requested. Every editor and agent has submission guidelines. Please adhere to those submission guidelines and not try to beat the system by just sending them a quick link versus taking the time to meet those requirements. You're lucky if they'll even respond to you, okay? It is quite okay to reach out and say, hey, I would love to know your submission guidelines. How do I reach out to you with information about my book? It's perfectly fine to ask them what their requirements are, to ask them how to go about submitting your work. But please stop DMing people information about your book, links to your book, if they have not requested it, okay? This is a business, folks, and we try to keep track of our stuff because we get a lot of submissions, and I get a lot of people that I actually call them repeat offenders, who will constantly just keep sending the same projects. So most publishers and most agencies have a system, which is why they have submission guidelines that you need to follow. Don't allow yourself to be rejected just because you're not following the guidelines, okay? So make sure you're checking out their websites, you're checking out their submission criteria, and you're not just pitching them your stuff in the DM if they have submission guidelines. Again, if they're encouraging you to submit to them, if it's some kind of contest online, especially on Twitter, I've seen a lot of Twitter contests like PitMad. If it's stuff like that, absolutely. But if you are just trying to reach out to shoot your shot, try to be professional about it and ask them how they would like to receive your material. Me personally, I do not like receiving any submissions, any links to anything via direct message. So please try not to do that. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I really appreciate it. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions or comments about the information I provided, please comment below and let me know what you think. Also, let me know if you have additional questions that I can address in another video. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.